The wind cuts like iron. Across the fjord, a single campfire burns. Small, defiant, alive. Snow drifts over the roofs of turf and timber, a Viking winter night that never ends. 14 hours of darkness. 14 hours where silence could freeze your breath mid-air. They didn't fight the cold. They learned to live with it. No electricity, no heater, no stocked shelves. Only hunger, only smoke, only will. Each man huddled close to the flame, listening to the wind's old song. How did they survive when everything else froze? What kept them alive? The food, the shelter, or the mind that refused to die? Along the northern coast where the sea turns to iron in winter, the Vikings faced a hunger deeper than the cold itself. For 6 long months, the earth gave them nothing. No crops, no berries, no hunt that wasn't frozen stiff before the arrow landed. And yet, they lived. He stands by the shore knife in hand, cutting fish beneath a sky the color of ash. The air burns his lungs, the salt bites his lips, but the wind is clean, steady, relentless. He builds a wooden rack, hangs the fish high, and lets the north do the cooking. No fire, no salt, no smoke, only air, only time, only patience. Day after day, the cold wind draws out the water, leaving behind flesh, as light as wood, as hard as stone. Protein locked inside nature's freezer, a meal that could outlast the sunless months. When hunger came, he would strike the dried fish against a rock it cracked, not bent, and chew the sound of survival. The same wind that froze his hands became his ally. The same cold that killed the weak became his forge of endurance. Because wisdom in the north was never written in books. It was carved by frost, tested by hunger, proven by time. You can almost feel it. The sting of salt, the ache of hands, the quiet triumph in the breath of winter. And maybe even now you understand the cold isn't always an enemy. Sometimes it's a teacher. There were no tall trees in the north, no bricks, no mortar, only stone soil. And grass that clung to life, even through the frost. When the storm came, the wind didn't knock on doors, it tore them open. A leaking roof meant death before dawn. So the Vikings did something that most men would never dare. They went into the earth itself. He dug with numb hands, shaping a hollow where light and warmth could hide. Around him, the land became both wall and shelter, stone stacked outside, packed soil within. And on top, a living roof of grass thicker than a man's arm breathing with the seasons. It wasn't beauty they built for. It was survival. 2 walls, one of stone, one of earth. Between them, still air, a barrier the wind could not cross. Above, a skin of moss that grew and froze, sealing life inside. Outside, 30 below. Inside, the warmth of a kitchen, the silence of a prayer. Smoke curled through a small hole in the roof, carrying the smell of stew, of tallow, of breath. Children laughed beneath the soil. Firelight flickered off the earthen walls like a heartbeat under skin. The house was alive, fed by the very ground it was born from. While others fled from the dirt, they returned to it. While others cursed the land, they listened to it. The earth that could bury a man could also keep him alive. You can almost feel it, the weight of the roof above you, the pulse of warmth below your feet. And maybe in our modern world of walls and noise, we've forgotten something simple. Nature was never the enemy. In the far north, sunlight barely touched the earth. 4 hours, that was all they had before darkness returned thick and endless. And in that darkness, minds began to break faster than bodies. The cold you can fight, the hunger you can endure. But silence and the dark, they get inside your head. So the Vikings made light, not from wax, not from wood, but from life itself, the fat of the seal, the oil of the hunt. They carved lamps from stone shallow and strong. Into them they poured the oil, and for a wick they used what little the land gave, moss flax, a shred of worn cloth. The flame burned slow, steady golden. It whispered more than it spoke. Just a glow, a breath, a heartbeat of warmth. In that small circle of light, 3 souls could huddle close and feel alive again. Outside ice, inside fire. The contrast kept them human. A single drop of seal fat could warm the hands of 3 people. It could cook a meal. It could keep a story alive through the longest night. The lamp was not just light, it was memory. Smoke curled between the stones, carrying the smell of oil, the soft hum of breath. Shadows danced on the turf walls, flickering like ghosts of ancestors. Every spark reminded them they were still here, still breathing, still human. You can almost feel it, the sting of cold air, the hush between flickers, the way hope hides inside a single flame. We have electricity, they had fire. But tell me, who understood light more deeply? There was no down jacket in the north, no Gore-Tex, no waterproof miracles from a factory, only wool leather and fur-free gifts from a world that demanded respect. When it rained, the sea soaked you to the bone. When it froze, the cold bit through every seam. And if your clothes stayed wet through the night, you didn't see the morning. So the Vikings learned a secret older than science, the layering of life itself. First the wool. It drank the moisture, but never the warmth. Then the leather. Wind hit it and stopped cold. And above it all, fur, thick-breathing, alive, trapping air, like a wall of heat between body and storm. Wet but warm. Soaked but safe. Frozen wind still roared but never touched their skin. Every layer had a reason. Every fiber told a story of survival. Wool from the sheep that braved the cliffs. Hide from the deer that ran through snow. Fur from the beasts that endured what men could not. Together, they made armor not for battle, but for life. He tied the leather cords tight at the wrists, sealed his boots with tallow, pulled the hood low. The storm didn't stop. The frost still burned, but he kept walking. Because warmth, he knew, wasn't a single thing. It was a system, a relationship between body and world. You can almost feel it, the weight of the coat, the rough wool scratching your neck, the breath of steam rising from your collar in the freezing air. They didn't fight nature, they listened to it. They spoke its language. And maybe that's what we've lost to the conversation. The more technology we build, the further we drift from the old wisdom that kept us alive. No one slept alone in a Viking winter. Not warriors, not elders, not even strangers. Because in the north, cold killed faster than wolves. When the night fell, the wind crawled through every crack, whispering over the earthen floor. The fire dimmed. The air grew still. And that's when they came together, 6, sometimes 8, lying shoulder to shoulder on one long bed of seal hide. They pressed close breath against breath, warmth against warmth. A simple act that kept death outside the door. The bedding was thick, heavy, smelling of smoke and sea. They laid their heads toward the wall of earth to block the wind, their feet pointed toward the faint glow of the hearth. Above them, fur blankets. Beneath them, animal skins soft with salt and oil. And between them, life itself shared in silence. No stove, no furnace, no fire big enough for all. Only people, only warmth made of flesh and trust. You can almost hear it, the rhythm of breathing, the slow crackle of embers, the muffled storm outside. Bodies forming a circle like a single organism keeping its heart alive through the long night. He shifted once, pulling the hide tighter. The woman beside him sighed, half asleep. A child stirred, pressing closer. And in that quiet, something sacred pulsed, a truth older than civilization. The lowest temperature isn't out there beyond the walls. It's inside the hearts that have no one near. Today, we sleep alone in heated rooms behind walls that hum with electricity. But sometimes the cold we feel isn't in the air. It's the kind that no machine can warm. In the frozen silence of the North Winter wasn't an enemy, it was a test. A trial set by Odin himself, not to break them, but to measure their spirit. Fear killed faster than frost. It froze the heart long before it touched the skin. And the Vikings knew if you let fear in the cold had already won. So they trained their minds like they trained their blades. Every night around the fire, they told the sagas of gods, of ancestors of battles, fought in storms like this. Each story was a shield, each song a spark. Together, they built something stronger than fire belief. The men sang low. The women hummed beside them. Children listened with wide eyes, learning not just history, but endurance. When the flames danced, they saw their ancestors moving in the light. When the wind howled, they heard Odin's voice not of doom, but of challenge. The fire wasn't just warmth, it was memory. They practiced calm in chaos, laughter in darkness, courage in cold. The body could endure anything if the mind led the way. And that was the secret of the North. Not muscle, not numbers, not armor, mindset, ritual, faith in the unseen. You can almost hear it, the hum of voices, the slow rhythm of breath, the way courage grows when shared in a circle of light. They didn't fight the storm, they welcomed it, because the storm proved who they were. In our modern world, we hide from the snow, from silence, from discomfort. But maybe the Old North still has something to teach us. Don't fear the winter, respect it. And in that respect, find strength. In the far north, no village stood alone. Each one a small island of smoke and warmth surrounded by endless white. Winter could erase them in a month hunger sickness or silence. So they built a different kind of weapon, not made of iron, but of trust. Once every moon, the Vikings gathered. They called it the Winter Exchange, a night of fire trade and kinship. Men carried dried fish wrapped in bark. Women brought seal fat in jars of clay. Furs, candles, and words of promise passed from one hand to another. It wasn't about wealth. It was about survival. If one family's storehouse was empty, another shared from theirs. If a hunter was lost, the village fed his children. No coin, no contracts, just the quiet law of the cold together, or not at all. Around the great fire they ate, sang, and remembered. Every gift carried a heartbeat, a reminder that no one faced the frost alone. Their economy wasn't measured in silver, it was measured in warmth. When one home was hungry, the whole village ate. When one child shivered, the tribe gathered closer. The cold never divided them, it welded them together. The strength of the Vikings didn't come from their axes or ships. It came from their circle, their willingness to hold one another through the storm. Because when the world froze, the only fire that truly mattered was human. You can almost see it, faces lit by flame hands passing, food, laughter, cutting through the wind. And maybe that's the secret we've forgotten. We built walls, we built machines, but the one thing that kept them alive was each other. Snow falls heavier now. The fire fades. Only a red glow remains, breathing softly against the dark. Around it, the faces of the North stay still quiet, calm, alive. They survived not only through food or shelter or fire, but through faith in one another. Because the warmth that lasts the longest doesn't come from wood or oil, it comes from people, from hands held, from stories shared, from breath against breath in the night. You can almost feel it, that ancient silence between heartbeats. The same warmth that once kept a Viking alive still burns somewhere inside us. Today, we live in a world of comfort and isolation. Screens glow brighter than any flame, but the rooms feel colder. And maybe deep down, we're still searching for what the Vikings already knew. That true warmth comes from human connection. And perhaps, in every winter, there's still a Northman in your heart. Next time, we'll open the door and step inside the Viking home to see how they stayed warm with something no one expects.